Welcome to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. I'm Tori Mystic, here with my dogs Lucy and Bert. Together, we're interviewing cool, creative women entrepreneurs in the pet industry. Do you dream of working alongside your dog? Then sit, stay, and listen to the latest episode to find the inspiration and resources that will help you grow your own dog-inspired business. On this episode, I'm talking to Catherine Whiteman of the dog bedding and accessories brand 3 Wags. We talk about how her products make people and pets' lives easier and better, especially through her awareness bandanas. I think you'll love the touching story about how those came to be. We also discuss the challenges of having to tackle it all as a solopreneur in the pet industry. Catherine Whiteman was inspired to start 3 Wags by the 3 wagging tails in her own home, Holly, Fenny, and Tibby. After law school and a Washington, D.C. career in politics, Catherine found a way to combine 2 of her passions, her dogs and problem solving. She knows this might sound funny to some, but it's true. Her career was spent working on finding creative, realistic solutions to issues people face, and she decided it was time to turn those skills to the dogs. Dogs are a huge part of Catherine's everyday life with her husband, and she realized that it was hard to find stylish, functional, and well-made products that made sense for the way people live. Her products celebrate a love of dogs while providing practical, functional solutions. Even the simple bandana has been elevated with an easy-to-use clasp. In late 2017, Catherine and her husband fostered and adopted a second Brittany rescue, Raina, who has added another wagging tail to the family. Hey, Catherine.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited because I've been following you online for a long time, and so many of our Instagram friends wear 3 Wags products and use them. So I've been seeing you online for a while.
Well, and I love the Pittsburgh crew. You have an amazing dog community there, and I keep telling them all I need to come visit, but it hasn't happened yet, but soon.
Tell everyone where you are based now.
I'm actually based about 30 miles south of Albany, New York, in a very small town called Athens, right on the Hudson River.
Lovely. And how long ago did you leave Washington, D.C. for a quote-unquote simpler life?
Simpler? No, I left in 2004, and I was in Vermont for a while. I'm a native Texan, so that all may sound really funny, but there are connections. But I moved there for a few years, and then I moved down to New York to the Saratoga Springs area where my mother lives, and then from there met my husband, and 8.5 years ago we got married. So
that's awesome. And how long have you been doing 3 Wags?
Well, I started as a different business when we had planned on not staying here for a long time, on moving after we married. But as many people will understand, we had some aging parents that needed our help, and it was right to stay here and good to do so. And so I was trying to figure out something that I could do that I would be passionate about and that would be exciting. And so it was really about 2014, but it had a little different skew to it. I was doing some things for people and for dogs. And then in summer 2016, it became all about the dogs, which is where it should have been in the first place. And it got its new name, and it really sort of blossomed because it all made sense then.
Yeah, that kind of mirrors a little bit, I feel like, what I've done with Wear, Wag, Repeat is when I first started this about 6 years ago, it was just like lifestyle, party planning and recipes and dog stuff. But once you narrow into like the dog focus, like I think people who aren't in our world think that it's like so limiting that you're, right, alienating other people. But it's just so much, it just all falls into place, and it makes sense once you narrow it down.
It does. It on so many levels, whether it's just if you're creating product or you're creating stories or whatever. And I think it's important to think about those lifestyle elements because I think that more and more, I mean, I remember, with my grandparents, they had 6 kids, their dog lived outside, came in, in the nice doghouse, although we were in Texas, so it wasn't freezing cold. But, I just think that the status of dogs, shall we say, in people's lives is elevated because I just think they're such amazing, wonderful creatures, and they're where they should be now. But I think that has just created so many opportunities for people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that people treat their dogs like their children, and so they're more and more inclined to get them like different outfits, different things that kind of go with everything, and that is where your beautiful products, come in.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I will be honest. I have, now 3 Britneys, as I don't remember if we said they were Britneys or not earlier, but, so they're hunting dogs by
Hmm.
genetics,
Right.
but that's not what I have done. But so they're not really, little dogs. They don't want to be in my purse because they want to be like out running around and being crazy. Although sometimes I wish I could put them in my purse, probably. But and so there are different niche markets, and I think that makes it fun too. And I think it's finding, what's true to you in making your products. And then I think you find like-minded people, and I think that that can make the best kind of business because it's so easy to be excited about it because it's just, and I think that that genuineness translates to people too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I have to ask, when you worked in DC in politics and sort of strategic planning and that kind of stuff, it seems very different from, running your own like solopreneur business of dog accessories and whatnot. Oh, is it really that different, or are there some similarities that you have found?
Well, I will say one thing. The one thing is different is that in that world, we referred to the people who we helped and served as our constituents versus our customers. And although most of the time constituents were nice, I have to say that dogs are just so much more fun. Because whether it's right or wrong, people are coming to you sometimes on their worst days or about things that they really care about, and they're not easy always. And you can't always give them a great solution. Whereas I feel like in my business, there's problems I can't solve, but there's so many things that I can do that make people's lives better with their dogs. And so I feel like I have a lot more ability to be a pleaser, and to give people things that are going to enhance their life versus trying to tell people, well, we can't really do that right now, or that's not possible, or whatever. But one thing that I really have found, a couple of things that I've really found amazingly that do transfer. One, that, when you work for a member on Capitol Hill, you do everything. I mean, you might be the head honcho in the office, but if a batch of letters have to get out, you have to put your hands in and just do what you got to do. And I think when you own your own business, it's a lot like that. I mean, you may be doing things you love one day and things that you kind of hate doing, but you just learn to do what you got to do to get it done. And that's especially true in the early days when you can't hire a million people to help you out. So I think that being kind of a doer and just whatever you got to do helped. And the other thing is that I think a lot of times people who are crafters, and people have said this to me, they don't tend to be always extroverted. They don't tend to necessarily be people who like to be out there talking about their craft or their products or what they're doing because they really love the craft itself. And because of my background in speaking in public so much and always speaking about things that I was passionate about, I love that part. And really, to be honest, and this may be, we'll see how it comes out, but no, but I think that you can talk about things and you can be positive, and it's all sales. I mean, it's all about hearing what your buyers want or your constituents want, understanding, and then trying to either send the right message or send the right product to them and tell them how you can help them.
Well, and I think you also have to be really smart and kind of strategic about it because sometimes people come to you with complaints or issues or pain points or whatever, and they don't even know what the solution is, but they're coming to you with their complaints, and then you have to figure out the solution that's right for them and give it to them. So
Well, yeah, I think that's an excellent point. You have to be able to try to help them solve the problem if you can and how you can. You have to be patient no matter how upset they may be, because it's obviously very personal to them, as are many of the things that people come and talk to you about or to their congressman or senator about. Um, but you also, I have found it advantage that you have to be able to deliver a consistent message, like about your product or what it's used for, um, but in different ways. I mean, you have to be able to talk about it to different people so that they understand it and see how it can help them. Yeah, so I really think that the whole kind of ability to be in public and be okay with that and pitch, shall we say,
mhm.
it takes a lot of time and training. And I think that even though it was a completely different field, in a way, it was a lot harder, um, versus doing something like this that I love, where I get to talk about my dogs and why I created fun products and all of that to people who are like-minded.
Yeah, well, it's definitely always more fun when dogs are involved.
Yes.
It's hard to find dog mom gear that fits in with the rest of your style. I love my dogs, but I don't want paw prints on everything I own. The Wear Wag Repeat shop is full of artist-designed apparel, handmade accessories for you and your dog, and stylish gifts for the dog obsessed. Best-selling products from the Wear Wag Repeat shop, like our Puppy Breath candle, have been featured on blogs like Proud Dog Mom and the Daily Dog Tag. Your dog is already spoiled, so treat yourself. Get 15% off your first order when you visit shop.wearwagrepeat.com and use promo code PODCAST. That's shop.wearwagrepeat.com, promo code PODCAST. Well, I loved in reading your bio and doing some research about you about how many of your products were designed to solve a problem or just to make things easier for people. Because when I'm reading business books or marketing books or things like that, that's always the first thing that they say. They're like, "What problem is your product solving?" And I think you've been really smart and strategic how you've done that. So, tell us a little bit. I have some bandanas that I've made myself that took many, many prototypes. That's like a collar sleeve style. And it took like so many versions of it to get it how I wanted. So, tell us a little bit about the process. You have a really cool bandana that has like a clip clasp on it. So, what was the process? How many different versions did you go through to get it to where it is today?
Well, I think went through a lot of versions, and I would be fibbing if I didn't say that even today my husband and I were talking about something and thinking, oh, well, how could we do this better? How could I do this better? He will have thoughts sometimes that are good to hear, and give me ideas or make me think about things differently. And the buckle clip was maybe a selfish creation, because honestly, I'm not one to dress my dogs up a lot, but I always like them to feel that they're a part of the family or a part of an event. Like if it's July 4th, they can have something red, white, and blue, or the holidays or whatever. And I love that it's just like they're just part of it without, I don't feel like it's making them uncomfortable or anything like that. And part of it was, you have two dogs, so you can probably relate if you've ever tried to sit and get multiple dogs to cooperate while you either put a bandana over the sleeve or
Mm-hmm.
tie it on, versus one stop click.
Yeah.
Boom, it's done. And that isn't a criticism to the others, because I think they're fine. But for me, it was a matter of efficiency. How can I get this done and, get it on and have it work? And there are even times when I will put their dog tag on it And if they're wearing a harness, I wouldn't ever leave them without without the
Right.
collar, if whatever. But, then they can, I can clip the dog tag on it. So really it was about efficiency. And I also found for me that, things that I can wash and just throw in are great. And I found for me that it wore better, that you didn't, that, sometimes if you have the tie-ons after a while, it's just like anything else. It's like shoestrings. It starts to wear out. And if I'm going to ask people to spend some money, I want to have the best fabrics. I want to have good construction and sewing, but I want it to last. And I think, like anything, what is the thing that wears out the fastest on a given product, and how can I make it last longer? And so that's why I did it. It really was. It's selfish, and I do. I have customers now who say, I bought this other one, and I always reach for the one with the clasp.
Yeah.
So, and I love that. I like that other people have found it easy. It does. It takes more time, and
To
I
make
think
it.
yeah, it takes
Yeah.
more time to make it, and therefore, in some cases, people will find that they're more expensive, and but I think they're pretty standard, but maybe more than some.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There's the old adage, do you get what you pay for?
Absolutely.
And so that's why.
Yeah.
And then they can be reversible and all sorts of other things.
All sorts of fun details. So in your bandana collection, you also have some special awareness
Oh, they're
bandanas.
my favorite.
How did that line get started?
Um, I actually do love this story, and I am so passionate about them. Um, I have a friend who she and her partner used to adopt, or they still do, but adopt senior Brittany's mainly. She was in Brittany Rescue, and a lot of times they were not easy to find homes for. Maybe they were blind, maybe they were deaf, plus they were older, or maybe they had seizures, or different things were difficult, or maybe they'd been through tough times and, were a little skittish. And, the simplest example would be their dog who was blind. You would not know that she was blind if you saw her in the dog park. You'd have no idea. She just was so well adjusted. But yet, if you got close to her or something, she could get a little skittish because she doesn't see you. But then the person who's walking up to her doesn't know she's blind. And so I started trying to think about a way that would be fashionable and but also provide a message that might help the human from always having to say, oh, she can't hear, she's blind, or she's nervous. And because I think for the humans too, that gets to be a hard conversation and message to always have to relay. And I can't, and so I thought, why can't I just put it on a bandana? And it doesn't mean questions don't come, but I can't tell you the stories that I have heard of how it changed. I'll tell you one really quick one. A Canadian customer, her dog was deaf. It was a little dog in a rescue. And so the dog would go to the park, and in order to be noticed, he'd bark a lot, like really loudly. Well, and sometimes she said people would get kind of afraid, like, is he not friendly or is he whatever? But it was really just like, she said, I always felt like in his mind, he wasn't sure that he was being seen like the others, So she bought him the bandana. And she said it was incredible to watch how once people saw his bandana said, I'm deaf, they approached him differently. They weren't nervous when he would bark incessantly because they thought, oh, well, this is why. And guess what? On the other end, they approached him, which meant he got the ear rubs
He got
and
the
the
attention he
attention
was
that
trying to
he
get.
wanted.
Yeah.
So she's like, I can't tell you how it changed his life. And to the point that when he passed away, she put together like a little suitcase with things that were valuable. And she even had like an urn hand painted by someone. And in the box was his bandana. And on him, on the urn, was the bandana. And it said,
Aw.
I'm deaf. And I'm going to tell you that you don't need to do anything else in my whole life. That to me was everything.
Yeah. That's an
Because
amazing story. It makes me tear up just thinking about
I
it.
know, that I affected a dog in a human's life like that. I'm not saying it was all me, but that somehow that something that I made, was able to be that transformative. And
Hundreds of miles away, too. Yeah. It's
oh
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
you and I both know Jessica and Hunter, and he has one now. Um,
Oh, nice.
One of my Pittsburgh dogs who I know, and Jessica's a photographer in
Yeah.
the area, and she wanted one because he gets kind of protective of her, and it says ask before approaching. And so she said, I've watched people on our hikes and stuff who will kind of make a little bit further, go a little bit further around, and that makes Hunter more comfortable. And anyway, they're just countless stories, and it really is probably the thing that I do that I love the most.
Well, I think it kind of ties it all together because are making products that are easier for people to use, like just clasp it on and go. But then you're putting a message on it that makes the dogs happier and it makes their lives better. So you're making the dog's life better and the person's life better. And I mean, what more can you ask for?
And that is what I say, that is what my business is about. I mean, it's about people and their dogs, and at the heart of it, the relationships that they have and how those relationships can be made better or easier, or,
Yeah.
it's like, and you may be getting this, but it's like the dog mats. At first, people were like, well, now, why are you doing dog mats instead of dog beds? Which I am going to be doing dog beds very soon.
Well, tell everyone about who's listening about your dog mats. It's like almost like a crate mat.
It is. They are, and some people there are mats and there are blankets, and the blankets will come in like 3 sizes, and they have a fabric. Often they're very popular in the winter. They'll have like your classic plaids and flannels, and they're backed in a heavy duty Sherpa, not the sort of softer stuff. And then the dog mats come in the standard crate sizes, and you're exactly right. They can be used in the crate, but I have people who, they don't want something too bulky, but they wanted to teach their dog to stay on a certain part of the couch
Mm.
because then they didn't have, dog hair everywhere, but they wanted it to look nice. They didn't want it to be an old towel or an old blanket. We all know now that people take their dog to the office with them. And that pets in the workplace are so much more common. We know that there are breweries where there will be patios and they're hot, but you take your dog, and so you can roll up the mats and take them with you, and your dog has a place to sit that isn't the hot cement.
Yeah.
So
There's a
really,
very popular brewery in Pittsburgh where I swear there's more dogs there than there are people on any given day.
I'd probably like it then.
It is awesome, and they're killing it because they keep every time I go, they've like bought the next property over. It's like just growing.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing. But the newest kind of area is gravel, and I was there this summer with Lucy or Bert or I don't know, one of them, and they couldn't get, I mean, they were not comfortable lying on the gravel, and I should have had a mat with me. Then I could have put that down. It would have been
I
so
know,
much
and
better.
guess what? Lucy could borrow her friend
I
Lucy the
know.
Lab's mat. And then it'd be perfect. I don't know if Lucy will give it up, but she might loan
Maybe
it
she'll
to
share a
Lucy.
little corner of
That's
it.
right. But it really, and I've noticed the transformation in the few years that I've done them. At first, when people would see them, if I was at a vending event, they'd be like, now, what is that for? Is that for a crate? And I would explain it. And some people immediately, oh, yeah. Some people, I'm not sure either that I really get that. To take you to a different generation people, I have people who travel north to south in their RVs.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I can't put big dog beds in my RV for space reasons.
Right.
And it's very tough to wash them. And these are perfect. So, but it was funny how a few years ago, people would ask me a lot of questions. And even as I go to events now, I find fewer questions because I think places like breweries are popping up that are dog friendly. And I think that you see so many more dogs in the workplace that all of a sudden it's one of those things that is clicking with people in a different way. And I don't mean to say I was ahead of my time, but in some ways I was. But it was really a matter of how can I take my dogs along for the ride and not put 3 big dog beds in there?
Right. Yeah. So let's because we're kind of nearing the end of our interview. So let's shift gears a little bit and tell us. So you sell primarily on your website, right?
Yes.
And what have you found to be really helpful, or maybe like a big challenge in doing that?
I mean, I would say honestly, and I'll just put it this way, I'm not a millennial. And I consider myself someone who does problem solve, but a lot of it is learning the ropes of how do okay, if you put your stuff on Etsy and that's one platform, but then you want to have a separate online shop, but they don't speak together necessarily. They're set up in different ways, and just learning everything that you have to do from, you know, optimizing your search engine, which I didn't even know what that meant. I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, I know what optimizing means. I know what search engine means, but this is seriously Greek to me. Um, and even social media or just, email campaigns all the way down to product photography and what kind of background do you use? And, what do people like to see? And it just, I learn every day. I mean, it's just crazy. And half the time I think I'm relearning or learning differently something that was a different way 6 months ago.
Right. It's
But
hard to keep up.
yeah, but I think that the one thing that I would say is that, for any online maker or for any makers, Etsy is a great platform. I sort of have a love-hate relationship with it because it does speak its own language, and it's a little different than others. But I think that it's really important, even though it can take longer to create an online shop. I think it's really important because it's your own. I mean,
Yeah.
on Etsy, you don't own your customer base or their emails or anything like that. And I think it's a great starter place, but I think that people should leap, even though it's scary to have their own
Mm-hmm.
independent shop.
Mm-hmm. It can be a good place to experiment maybe at the
Yes.
beginning, or have some discovery.
And I
People can
shop there
find
all the
you.
time. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I love it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think having your own spot's important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, Catherine, we have to end our interview. But I know that you're going to have so many holiday things going on, and this episode is coming out perfect timing for everyone to start planning their holiday photos that they might need dog accessories for, or holiday gifts, or personalized things. So tell everyone where they can find you online so that they can get ready for all that.
They can, and we will have stockings and all sorts of fun
Ooh,
things coming out. So they can find us online at 3, and that is spelled out THREE wags, like waggingtaildogs.com, or on Instagram at 3_wags. And we hope you will find
yeah,
us. And we're always happy to help do custom stuff if you need it.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. You can fetch show notes at wearwagrepeat.com. If you like what you hear, please hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And until next time, we'll see you around the dog park.